Hello, winter. This is a public service announcement to everyone everywhere. Please stop shoveling snow into the bike lane. Thank you very much. What's it like to bike in the winter in Montreal, a big North American city that's pretty bike-friendly, but also has cold and snowy winters? In this video, it's just me, using the first big snowstorm of the season to show you what biking here is really like, the good and the bad. But first, we're excited to announce that in February 2024, we'll be going to the Winter Cycling Congress in Edmonton, another winter city that's making big investments into bike infrastructure. We look forward to seeing you there. This recent storm lasted from Sunday through Monday, dropping 35 centimeters or 14 inches of snow. That's pretty big, but nothing unheard of for this city. While a storm like this is still ongoing, the snowplows can only play catch-up, so the entire surface transportation system is unpredictable. Drivers struggle to dig out their cars and get through the snowy streets. Buses are unreliable and hard to access through snowbanks. Pedestrians often end up walking in the road or even the bike lane. Deliveries are delayed. Strollers are kind of a nightmare, and children often get pulled on sleds. You can still get around on a day like this, but it can be slow and chaotic. And this is the kind of context you might want to work from home, or take the winterproof metro if you can. It would be completely understandable for someone to not want to bike in this due to it being, well, an active snowstorm. But there are also plenty of people out on their bikes, and it's hard not to notice that biking right now is still possible and not that crazy. But you have to be prepared for variability and the possibility of riding on the road or walking on the sidewalk sometimes. On Monday, when I biked around, some routes were recently plowed and had clear black asphalt. Some had a light dusting of snow that was no problem at all. Some had a bit more snow that was usually fine, but you'll want to watch for slippier or bumpier sections. Some routes had quite a bit of snow that you have to fight through or follow a narrow trail. And a few routes were full of snow and unusable until the plow comes through. Protected bike lanes were better than painted ones, and straightaways were usually better than intersections or crosswalks. Again, if this isn't for you, totally understandable, but it is more possible than you might think. The day after the storm, Tuesday, is when things start to go back to normal. The snowfall has mostly stopped, so most routes have been plowed, although some are better off than others. Let's say you held off on bike commuting during the storm, but want to get back to it the day after. What can you expect? We're going to commute from this neighborhood with high rates of bike commuting to this major hospital downtown. Normally this is 6 kilometers or 4 miles, but we're going to take some detours to check the status of some other bike lanes. We start on one of Montreal's express bike routes, which are mostly built around wide one-way lanes. This stretch deserves a solid A. It's not as wide as when there's no snow, so passing is more difficult, but the middle of the lane is well cleared and it feels very comfortable to use. At intersections you run into some snow residue, but not enough to be a problem. Biking through this is pretty easy. The obvious direct route would mean going straight here, but we're going to turn to the right to try one of the city's new bike corridors. Unfortunately, the winter experience here right now isn't as good. There's precipitation in the middle of the lane, and it's not a light dusting of snow, it's thicker and icier. It's not the kind of smooth ice where I feel like I have to completely avoid it because I'm going to easily slip and fall, but I did have to be careful for many sections. I'm rating this a C. Not impossible to use, but not the kind of experience you hope for. Maybe it was plowed at a different time by a different crew, or the road has problems with water accumulation. And then there's this guy making it worse by shoveling snow into the bike lane. Great work, buddy. Next we turn onto a road that normally has a painted bike lane to the left of parking. Because of the snow, the bike lane has disappeared. The road surface is pretty functional. Black asphalt with a little slush usually isn't a big deal, but my rating is C+ for having to leave the lane and share the road with cars. Next we're on to an older two-way bike path, and you can see one reason the city now prefers to build one-way pathways when possible. Snow accumulation can really take a chunk out of these. You have to slow down to pass oncoming cyclists, and wider cargo bikes become a lot less practical. Credit for the actual surface being clear, but this one is especially narrow, so I'm giving it a B-. Same for this multi-use pathway and this other two-way bike path up ahead. There's a strip of nice clear asphalt, but it's narrow. The next section is two-way bike lanes around the edge of a park, but they're plowed a little wider, making it easier to pass, so they get a B. Next we have a two-way bike lane that's pretty narrow and has lots of snow in it, earning a B-. It still works fine and doesn't feel dangerous as an individual cyclist, but I'm happy I didn't have to pass anyone here. Next, a surprise. This bike lane ends. I completely forgot, but this section of bike lane disappears in the winter. This happens more in some other parts of the city, but is pretty rare here. Oh well, we can go on this main commercial street for 2 blocks and continue on. This next stretch isn't the widest, and it has some snow falling into it, but it's not that big of a deal due to it being one way, so it earns a B+. Next we hit a two-way bike lane that's pretty comfortably wide, and doesn't have any hard snow or ice, earning an A-. Next we get to another one of the city's express bike corridors that has a bit more residue to watch for than you'd hope. But the lane is one way and there's still a clear path of asphalt, so let's say another A-. This quick connection here was actually built in the past few months. Next we turn into a two-way bike lane that's well cleared and mostly wide, earning a B+. The quality of winter maintenance is extra important on a hill where you're inclined to go faster. Unfortunately, the route isn't as good at the bottom of the hill, with a bunch of slush mixed in with harder snow and ice that made me stop and walk my bike for a portion, earning a C+, although further down it got better, earning a B. Finally, we cross a crosswalk annoyingly blocked by a bunch of cars, before hitting a B-rated section and finally ending up at our destination, this hospital. So that's one experience biking in Montreal the day after a snowstorm. Everyone has a different level of comfort, but I found that pretty doable. Some routes were nicer and more spacious than others, but almost everyone had a clear surface, or only had minor slush or snow that didn't really pose a problem. There were just 2 stretches that actually felt difficult to bike through because of harder snow or ice, but even there it was something to slow down and be cautious through, or walk your bike if you prefer, not something that's going to make you flip over the second you touch it. And one of those bad spots was plowed 15 minutes after I biked through, turning this into this. So that's winter cycling in Montreal, right? No, that's winter cycling the day after a snowstorm. But because the city gets a lot of snow, the temperatures are cold enough that it doesn't usually melt, and the urban environment is dense enough that there's not a ton of empty space, Montreal's approach to winter goes further than just plowing the snow and leaving it on the street. The city also has an elaborate system of snow removal, where it collects snow from streets and trucks it away to snow dumps. The whole process is really exciting to watch. First, they ban parking on the street, usually one side at a time, for a 12-hour stretch. At some point, a team of snowplows comes through to arrange the snow on the street to be picked up. Then a big snowblower comes through and spits the snow into a series of trucks following beside. Those trucks then take it away to snow dumps like this one. It takes about 5 days working day and night to cover the whole city, even the residential streets, and the result is that snowy streets turn into much less snowy streets. Obviously they can't remove every last flake of snow, but it still results in streets that are much nicer for pedestrians, drivers, and yes, cyclists. So let's redo that commute on Friday, a few days after the snowstorm when most of the snow removal operation has been completed. I'm still going to take the indirect route even though I don't have to, just to see more different bike lanes. As I'm getting ready to go, a snowplow goes by, laying salt on the bike lane. Starting off, the effect of the snow removal is really obvious. Here's what it looked like back on Tuesday, and here's what it looks like now on Friday. Tuesday was totally fine to use. It was narrow, but one way, so no oncoming cyclists. But now it's back to basically the whole design width, with plenty of room to pass slower cyclists. I'm upgrading this from an A to an A+. Next we turn onto the corridor that wasn't so great on Tuesday, with thicker and icier sections. Now it's much better, and I'm upgrading it from a C to an A-. The next stretch was a painted bike lane that ceased to exist under the snow, but now the snow's gone and the painted bike lane is back. Upgrade it from a C+ to a B+. Next, we're back to the two-way bike lane that had a nice clear surface, but was pretty narrow. It hasn't changed. It's in basically the same condition today, although these orange signs indicate that the snow removal will happen later that day. This keeps its B- rating. The next stretch is the same, except no snow removal planned as far as I can see. Snow removal might not happen here because it's an active construction site, I'm not sure. One thing you really do notice in the days after the storm is that residual snow at crosswalks and intersections gets cleaned up, turning this into this. Continuing on, the next few stretches haven't had snow removal yet either, but they were plowed decently wide anyway, so they keep their B rating. Avoiding the closed bike lane that I encountered on Tuesday, I turned down this buffered lane that's been cleared immaculately, earning an A. This road is also fairly low traffic, which is nice. Next, we're on to a one-way bike lane that gained most of its width back from snow removal, going from a B+ to an A. We're almost there, just a few segments left. Next, we're back to a two-way bike lane that was pretty good before. Here it is on Tuesday, but it's even better now after snow removal. I'm upgrading this from an A- to an A+. Next, I had a bit of a surprise. This route that you typically expect to have some of the best clearing isn't as good as I hoped. Here it was on Tuesday, and here it is now. The snowbanks are gone, but the surface isn't as clear as most of the others. And then there's this person shoveling snow into the bike lane. Why do people do that? This is the busiest bike corridor in the whole city. Anyway, from this person and the other surface problems, I'm downgrading this from an A- to a B. Next, I hit a sign saying the bike lane is closed. Probably due to the construction, but it wasn't like that on Tuesday. After a quick detour, B- for the cars parked in the bike lane, this downhill section has been cleared from the B+ on Tuesday to an A on Friday. At the bottom of the hill, the surface is much clearer than before, when it earned a C+, but not as clear as some of the others we've seen. Let's call it a B+. And now we end at the same destination, the hospital. Overall, biking on Friday was pretty darn nice. It wasn't perfect, but it was miles better and more predictable than biking during the snowstorm, and even the day after. Compared to the day after, lots of routes in my subjective rating got upgraded, and nothing scored below a B-. Believe it or not, winter cycling is one of the most controversial topics we've covered on this channel. We get a lot of comments from people who live in milder, often continental European climates where it doesn't get that cold, or snow doesn't stick around, and they have no idea what the fuss is all about. Can't you just bike in the winter like any other season? You North Americans are wimps. Multiple Dutch commenters actually told us that you don't need snowplows. You can just bike through the snow. One called us spoiled brats because he managed fine growing up with no snowplows in the Netherlands. On the other extreme, we also get comments from people in North America who see winter biking as obviously unpleasant, dangerous, and kind of crazy. How could we endorse it? A lot of our friends and family in other cities fall into this category, and are completely shocked when we mention biking beyond October. Neither of these sides really captures what biking in a winter city is like. First, the people who downplay winter are wrong. Traditional cycling capitals like Amsterdam and even Copenhagen do have mild winters, compared to places like Montreal and Minneapolis, which see much lower temperatures and much more snow. Here's the annual snowfall, from bottom to top, in Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Minneapolis, and Montreal. Snow is a big deal in our city, and plowing is a basic need, not a luxury, especially because snow can turn into ice. Like we covered, our city even goes beyond that and trucks it away to snow dumps to really make the city function smoothly. On the other side, what the North American winter cycling skeptics or critics get wrong is that, while biking in cold or snowy weather can be a challenge, it's not unique to cycling. It's just the reality of surface transportation in winter. But people are used to bundling up when walking in the cold, or being careful of snow and ice on sidewalks. They're also used to digging out their cars from snowbanks, or hearing about cars crashing into things in the winter.
Here we go again. This was the way many Quebecers started their day in what proved to be a tricky drive. At least 3 cars collided at the bottom of the hill on Park Avenue, closing one of the lanes. On Côte-des-Neiges Road, a city bus stopped on the incline. And this bus shelter on the corner of Saint Laurent and Saint Viator was smashed after 2 cars crashed and slid into it.
All of that just feels normal to us, while biking in the winter is still a novelty, so people don't really know how to think about it. The only mode of transport that's really carefree and immune to winter weather wallops is a fully underground metro system. When you actually build experience with winter cycling, you just learn how to make it work most of the time. You learn that cold isn't as big of an issue as people think. Once you get going, you might even find yourself too warm, although you do have to care more about wind and your extremities than you do with walking. You learn that road conditions matter, but also that you're not going to flip over the second your wheel touches anything vaguely snowy. You learn what you can bike through comfortably, what you should approach with caution, and when you should go around or even get off and walk your bike. And there's no one right answer to any of this. It depends on your comfort and experience level. You learn which routes work best for you, and which days you can bike. Some people are happy out there during the snowstorm, other people wait until the day after, and other people wait a few more days for everything to be cleaned up.
Like me.
This video is not meant to pressure anyone into biking in the winter if they don't want to. We can obviously see that lots of cities don't have good winter maintenance of bike infrastructure, or even bike infrastructure at all. Montreal isn't a winter cycling paradise either. The number of places we're comfortable biking definitely falls in the winter. Not all Montreal boroughs take cycling in the winter, or even cycling in the summer, as seriously as others. But Montreal does give a glimpse of the potential for winter cycling in cold and snowy winter cities. Go walk around the bike lanes of the Plateau or Rosemont-le-Petit-Patrie, and you will find people biking, even in the worst conditions. The numbers aren't the same as the summer, but it is common and visible enough that you can't treat it as some fringe or crazy thing. You can even find police on bikes in the winter here. Thanks for watching through to the end of the video. Don't forget to bike and subscribe, and a special thanks to our supporters on Patreon.